With this feeling I can leave. I'm working and I'm dreaming. Will you dare to give it all up and walk by my side? Do you see the road? Do you hear?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Bainbridge, and I'm your host on the State of the Nation. And today I have a special guest, a man who is very vocal about his opinion about what is the state of the nation. In fact, when I first met this gentleman, I actually always called his speeches the State of the Nation speech, or the State of the Union. That's where I got the idea from, actually. So he'll be pleased to know that. But before we go in and meet him, let's go in and find out a little bit about this gentleman, and let's hear what he has to say. Many of you may know of the situation in Wellington earlier this year. The Wellington, I call it the Freedom Camp, was established. And let's just go in and, without further ado, and take a sneak peek as to what was going on there.
Do we look like we're fringe? We're not fringe. We represent every strata of New Zealand society. Wake up! The people in front of you are concerned that our democracy is totally sick now. It is utterly sick. It's run by elites worldwide. We are voiceless. We have not been given our chance to exercise our freedom of speech. But I'm telling you now, you think you'll win a battle today? We're in a war, and a war is made up of a lot of battles. In the Second World War, before Alamein, maybe 3 years into the campaign, the Allies had never won one battle. And as Churchill said afterwards, after Alamein, we never lost one. I want to speak not to the police here now. I want to speak to the public around me who are here for the protest. Do not be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. We've got hope. We've got love, believe it or not, though I'm angry. But anger serves a very good cause. It serves the cause of action, not necessarily violent action, please God, no, but certainly the action calling for change to the processes of government, the processes of rule in our country. We have had enough. We don't want any more of your nonsense. With respect to the nonsense of COVID, we knew from the start, some of us, that it was just a lie, that it was all a beat-up. When you get the Official Information Act from Britain saying 10% of people in Britain actually died from COVID, and the average age was 82.5. They didn't die of COVID, they died of old age with a comorbidity of COVID.
There you go. There you go, everybody. Actually, very wise words there, and that's a very common trend around the world, that most of the people that did die from COVID-19 were quite old, so very well articulated there. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Guy Nunns. How are you today there, sir?
Good, thank you, brother. Lovely day here in the Wairarapa.
In the Wairarapa. How long have you been out in the Wairarapa?
Off and on for the last 8 months.
Awesome. There you go. I found you. All right, brilliant. So I guess it's not really normal for a person to find themselves facing up a whole bunch of police, if you would call them police. How much of police holding a microphone with some guy holding a gigantic speaker behind you, trying to motivate a crowd to stay peaceful in that scenario. How did you find yourself in Wellington? How did you get there? Let's start off with this question. Before Wellington, had you ever considered talking out against the government or rallying a group of people to complain about something or protest about something? Has this ever happened to you before, or is this a new thing?
I have an ability to speak, but in the sense that I felt sufficiently motivated to get out there and speak against the government, no, I did not have any great motivation up to the time of the convoy.
Okay. So how did you find yourself in Wellington during I call it the Freedom Camp?
Yeah, okay, so I had a building project started in the Wairarapa, the one that I'm still on, a fairly significant renovation of a house, and it happened that I had a 3-week window of opportunity in Wellington to do some work in there, while this job had come to a periodic stop, and I found that 3 weeks coincided, it dovetailed with the actual arrival of the convoy. And my sentiment was certainly for the convoy, and I found that I wanted to be there to see it and experience it. So by whatever coincidence, by whatever fortune, I found that the very day the convoy was arriving was the day that I was coming in from the Wairarapa to Wellington to do my work in town. So I visited on that first day. I visited on the second and third day, briefly. The fourth day, I think I was there for 8 hours. The fifth day, and on 8 to 10 hours every day until the end of the protest on, I think, the 2nd of March. And it was a wonderful occasion for me. I really enjoyed it. That's why I did the hours that I did. I was still working probably 2/3 of a full-time job in the morning and going down to Parliament grounds at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So you're an independent builder, is that correct?
I'm a self-employed builder of 22 years. Before that, I was working on small engines for 7 years. I've worked on cars for 4 years, and there's a couple of other interesting things in the mix there, but we'll leave that for another occasion.
All right. So you were actually working, doing your regular jobs in the morning, and then you were going there in the afternoon and through the evening. Were you camping there, or were you sufficiently happy enough to go home?
I have a house in Karori, which is less than 7 minutes probably drive away from Parliament grounds.
No.
So I didn't have a need to camp there. Not quite sure that my back would have coped with being on a hardish mattress in there. But anyhow, that's not how it happened for me. So I suppose officially you could say I was never trespassing, because I certainly was never ensconced on the site.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were actually like living in the area and just going to visit the public space and then leaving again. So you were absolutely within your rights. Although, of course, I would question the idea of people saying that going onto Parliament grounds is trespassing, but that's another conversation for another day. So currently, what are your plans for long-term public speaking?
Well, I, as you've asked and as I've answered, this was very much an impromptu thing. I found myself the second to last day of the protest in the company of, or third to last day actually, the afternoon of third to last day, in the company of Colin Whiteman, who had brought the shower block to Wellington. The very night that it arrived, it was stolen from the streets by the police, no less. And so Colin asked me if I was prepared to come round with him on the penultimate day of the protest, as it happened, to visit the police station and make the complaint of the stolen unit, and also be present for his media conferences that day. I think he might have had about 3. So I hung around with him on the second to last day, got to know him, and then on the very last day, I woke up and I think I might have had COVID, and I was very, very tired, but I managed to get into the protest, and there Colin was up the front there at whatever time it was, with a speaker and a microphone in hand. And I don't know that I grabbed it out of his hand, but it found its way into my hand, and the rest is as you see it there.
Yeah, that's right. And I've actually, myself being a video maker, I've actually captured you on your recent longer speeches. Actually, no, that was probably a short speech. I think you've done much longer speeches on the campaign trail with Counterspin Media, but you were also involved in the Unite movement, and I got you down there giving speeches and also calling out the policemen and the photographers for hanging around and photographing everybody. So coming up this weekend, there is a large movement going on, and it is called Stand Up to Fuel Prices New Zealand Wide. That's what it's called. Stand Up to Fuel Prices New Zealand Wide. Now, you're going to participate in some form or another, although I do realize you're an independent, but you're also going to be setting up something this weekend, this weekend coming. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to set up this weekend?
So, I think, independent, it's an interesting word and description of me. I'm only independent because I suppose I'm down in Wellington and no group has sufficiently formed of the same nature as, say, the groups up in Auckland. Yes, had something coming up on the screen there.
That's okay. We didn't see it.
Okay. So nothing had kind of formed down here in Wellington. One of the people that I have met, Jason, was a woman called Tony Bolland, and she's the owner of Firebird Cafe in Levin. Now, it's an interesting story how I came to meet her. Maybe 8 months ago, I was sitting here in the Wairarapa and looking through articles on my phone that had been notified to me. And I think it was either a News Hub article or a Stuff article, could have been a Guardian article or a Herald article. They're all the same. They're all paid for by the same group. And it was a hit piece on her and her cafe in Levin.
Oh, no.
And it was having a dig at her about not wearing masks, not insisting that her clients wear masks, and also not showing a QR code for scanning. And I got online immediately. I read the article. It might have been a Saturday night, I think, from memory, and just rang up, had a conversation with her, said, look, I really appreciate your courage in standing up against this nonsense, and I will support you insofar and in whatever manner I can. And it just so happens I do have some of my children living in the Otaki region, and so I was up there reasonably frequently. I made a point of visiting her at the cafe, and I've been there any number of times since, trying to support what I think is a fantastic business and a woman whose heart is certainly in the right place and is doing great things for the freedom movement.
what is wrong with media? When they have to attack a person for just allowing people to go about their own way. I mean, there's enough science already in, there's enough studies already in to know that COVID-19 was a storm in a teacup. And we mentioned earlier, I can't remember, this is the second time we've had an attempt at this. But anyway, we did mention earlier that the average age of expirement is roughly 82 years old, and so simply they died of old age. Oh, you actually said that in the video. They actually died of old age. So it's for example, here where I am now in Vietnam, everybody knows that I'm in Vietnam now. You have to wear you have to wear a mask when you get on a bus. That's pretty much it now. I think some buses are also very lenient on that now, because now you're starting to see even the bus drivers, they've still got the thing around their head, but it's sort of hanging under their chin, and a lot of people are sort of in that situation now. So do you think that New Zealand is really just going for gold on this and just milking this for all of its worth? Because a lot of what I see now, especially in Asia, is that a lot of people, excluding the obvious usual suspects like Japan and Korea, are still pushing the narrative. But the rest of us, and the rest of Southeast Asia, have pretty much gone back to normal. Do you think this government is just milking this for as much as they can get out of it?
Well, Jason, you're a bright man, and you might have heard that saying by Rahm Emanuel, whenever there's a crisis, you've got to milk it for all it's worth. I'm paraphrasing there. He's put it a much better way than I just have.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
That's it. And so that's what's happening here. The government's been rubbing its hands together for weeks and months and now years, milking this crisis for everything it can. But they, like all of these groups and governments and whatever, they end up abusing it to the point where people can see through it. I think a lot of people have grown weary of it. They're over this. They realise the masks don't do anything. They're just doing what they're told just in order to somehow receive the rewards that the government says that they're in authority to give.
Yeah, and now they're trying the same thing with monkeypox. How's that situation going on in New Zealand? Because trending at the moment is the idea that the WHO are planning another series of lockdowns in order to combat the monkeypox. How's the situation in New Zealand with that?
Good luck in them trying to get away with that. I mean, it's just another WHO nonsense. They're really good at all that rubbish, aren't they? I mean, seriously, the WHO, and just think, the WHO is the organisation that supposedly all the governments in the world were going to cede their rights to, in order that the WHO can make decisions for all of us about our health. Well, seriously, they're a laughing stock. And the number of times, Jace, I said during these last 2 years, we've had in the last 20 years something like 4 or 5 viruses on the loose that they could have called a pandemic for. And they've set a terrible precedent for this one, because now every single thing that comes along could be called a pandemic. We could be facing down this every 3, 4, 5 years from now. It's just going to be an absolute disaster. The common sense has been thrown out the window. Logic's gone. We've got mental cases running the show.
Absolute mental cases. So on the list coming up, they've got the potential Marburg pandemic, and they've got the potential SPARS pandemic, which is actually, I believe, a white paper that came out of the WHO. SPARS was a planned pandemic. So starting from like 2025 to 2028, they plan another round. Now, thank God, thank the Lord for telecommunications and instant mass communication thanks to the internet, because If we didn't have these tools, we probably wouldn't be able to sit here today and talk about it, and this will go out there and be preserved forever in history. And somebody 2 years down the track may come across this on social media and say, hey, these guys are talking about this. They knew this was going to happen. So it seems to be that you don't really have to be very prophetic at all to understand the game plan. You just have to do a lot of research. Had you done a lot of research before you got involved in this scenario of freedom fighting or truth telling? What was your status before getting into this, before Wellington?
Well, Jace, I'm not a big book reader. I'm not a big reader of long form, but I'm a big reader, I guess, of short form. I look at a lot of YouTube, and I think the beauty of YouTube is, while it's got its faults, is a very, very varied form of media. You know, you can get on there and access over something like 5 billion videos. So the scope is virtually unlimited. And so I watch YouTube all the time. That's my way of educating myself, I suppose, and entertaining myself. From the very moment, Jace, that this virus showed up on the 1st of January 2020, I was aware of it. I saw the videos from day one. And shortly thereafter, I'm talking to my 11-year-old daughter, my youngest child, and I said to her, this virus will kill a few old people and the very odd young person with a serious health issue. And I don't even know if I was right there. I don't know if it killed anyone in that really young age group. But certainly, you know, I was right from the start. I don't have any problem showing some caution, a small amount of caution at the beginning, justified by seeing that it was not terribly dangerous, and the only people really dying from it were old people with comorbidities and serious health issues. Otherwise, people are well into their 80s. I believe it's about 85 or 86 now is the average age of death with someone with COVID.
Oh yes, it's the thing is, you know, I have a media associate, a producer that I worked with years and years ago, you know, and he's very much a sort of a lover of the camera and a lover of the media, and I guess he's a game player in that respect. You know, playing, he'll tell you what what he thinks that you need to know. And if one of his friends actually, you know, he said died of COVID. But the thing is, when I've spoken to people who have said that they've had friends die of COVID, it's always the same. They go in for a checkup, they get diagnosed, okay, for COVID, they do the PCR test. They get put on this very dangerous treatment plan. And the final stage is the ventilators. And that's what really gets them, because they're putting healthy people on these ventilators, and they're essentially suffocating themselves to death. So, and I hear the same thing every single time, but try to explain to them that we already know this. We've known this for quite some time, that the ventilators are the reasons why they're actually dying and not COVID, because they're completely unnecessary, and they're literally drowning you in your own air, suffocating you. And so this is a problem for people. But let's move on from COVID and let's get on to the matter at hand. You are doing a tour this weekend, a short tour, I might add, from Wellington all the way to Levin. Can you fill us in to the details of what's going on this weekend?
Okay, so forgive me for my digression before. With respect to Tony Bolland, what I was going to mention was I had it in my mind that I wanted to do something for her as a way of an appreciation on behalf of the community. And of course, the issue of the moment here, other than COVID, of course, is fuel. The price of fuel oil has gone mental, not just here, of course, but worldwide. And I had said to Tony, did she want me to make a presentation at her cafe? And she was more than open to it. So that's how this has come about at Firebird Cafe in Levin. It's a very big cafe. It's got a nice big footpath outside, so if there's any overflow, I'm sure we'll be able to accommodate a good number of people there. It's one of those eclectic and bohemian style cafes, brother. You go in there, there's couches and there's a dance floor, there's old time posters and that sort of thing, you know, very much the currency of the day with regard to cafes. And it's just a really good place. Lovely food. I'm a foodie myself. I love good food. And Tony does a fantastic job of presenting lovely food. So the issue is fuel prices. We're seeing fuel prices getting out of hand now. We're seeing mortgages going up because the OCR has been raised. We're seeing inflation going up. Fuel prices, quite frankly, is the last thing we want to see going up because it really, really hurts. And people are on the breadline right now. They cannot afford to have petrol, diesel, fuel going up. Electricity, of course, will go up as well because a lot of our electricity is fueled from fossil fuel.
That's right. That's right. I've got a picture here. You can't see my screen. Stand Up for Fuel. Guy Nunns speaks on the issues New Zealanders need to be aware of that concern the very fabric of what it means to be a proactive New Zealander in the 2020s. Yeah, what does it mean to be a proactive New Zealander in the 2020s, Guy?
Well, that's a massive question, Jace. You know, I've been thinking recently, the question comes to mind, what is wrong with New Zealand now? What is wrong in New Zealand society? But I actually don't think that's the question we need to be asking. I think the question we need to be asking now is what is actually right in New Zealand now. There is so much that is pathological about New Zealand society and New Zealand government. I don't know if you know this, Jace, but the word government, I believe, comes from the Latin. Govern means control, ment means mind.
Yes.
It says everything you need to know. A bit like mortgage, Jace. Mort meaning death.
Yeah.
Gage meaning grip. You know, it's all right there in the definition of the words of our institutions and our controllers.
Absolutely, yes. The death grip of the mind control. I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, MK Ultra has been taking advantage of this for quite some time, the mind control. Now, Firebird Cafe is in Levin, and you're going to be leading a small charge, or maybe, well, we don't even know what size the charge will be, but you're going to be leading a charge from Wellington up to Levin. What time are you going to leave on Levin? What time are you going to leave Wellington, and on what day?
Okay, so Sunday, the 3rd of July, so that's this coming Sunday, I will be leaving near the viaduct in Kelburn on the Putakawa Drive side at 3:30 in the afternoon with an aim to be up in Levin. It's normally about an hour and quarter's drive, but I'm allowing an hour and a half to get up to Levin and for some sort of presentation after 5 o'clock.
Awesome. After 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And do you have any specific closing time or food and so on? Is there going to be a meal?
Okay, so there'll be food available on site. They do pizzas, beautiful pizzas. I think it's about $23 for a lovely pizza. I'd find that would feed me and someone else. Someone with a really hearty appetite might struggle with that, but that's what I would find for myself. So I find it reasonable, and there's we haven't put a closing time on it. It's open till late. People can leave whatever time Tony gets sick of them.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just pulling up one more sign. This is an event. Oh, I see. Actually, we have an event. Let me switch over. Let me pull that in here. Media profile. There you go. I'm on. Here we are. Transition that over. Now we can see that. People can see that. So here I am on the Facebook page. It's an event. Sorry, it's a Facebook event page. Get that closed. Oh my gosh. Here we are. Okay, here we are. Start your engine. So let's take a look at this poster. So here we have, we're starting at Wellington. Get your engines ready to roll. Stand up to fuel prices nationwide. So this is Operation Golden Oil. So you're cooperating with Good Oil, Operation Good Oil. You're cooperating with them. So that means you're going to be the convoy leader. Awesome, down there. So they're convoying to raise awareness, and it's from Wellington to Levin. Now you can contact, for just the convoy aspect of it, you can contact Operation Good Oil on 0800 New Zealand for oil, or for the speech side of it, you can contact Guy there. And a little bit earlier, I showed you that poster, and it's got Guy's phone number on that. All right, it's transitioned back to you. So there you are. I can see you now. Stand up for fuel. Awesome, Guy. Hey, good luck on this weekend. Unfortunately, I've got a very, very heavy weekend this morning, but I'll be free and keeping my eye open this weekend. I get quite excited when things like this happen, and I usually like to get involved, but unfortunately this weekend I'm unable to due to my I have commitments here in Vietnam, and I've got to go to work, but we have very long lunch breaks, so I'll be keeping an eye on and also popping in and maintaining our different Facebook groups, and hopefully I'll be sharing some of the great information. If you do actually get a live stream going out, that would be wonderful, and I'm sure the people could also stream that around.
Yeah, we will be doing our best to get a live stream there, Jason. I just want to say to you and to any viewers here now, fossil fuel oil is the greatest blessing to mankind since Jesus' nativity. Now, I've said that any number of times. I'm going to keep saying it. That's my little mantra. But I want to say something more than just that. I want to say to you and to your viewers that the invention of the internal combustion engine is probably the greatest invention of all time. Nearly every single thing you see has been produced from oil, has been energized by oil, has been sustained by oil. It is mental in this day and age to say anything other than that. And this whole idea that carbon is a toxic thing is mental. It's completely mental. It couldn't be more mental, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yep, it is absolutely mental. And to sustain the green energy mandates that they want to impose on the populations around the world requires further production of more carbons, and oils are just going to be remixed, rebranded, and renamed. I don't see that we're going to completely stop using our traditional resources, although maybe one benefit that has come out of this is that the oil companies are feeling the effect now. But then again, I have to be honest with myself and think that the oil companies probably knew this was coming anyway and had planned for it. So they're not really hurting. But traditionally, the large oil companies have been in control of the narrative of fossil fuels being finite and having a limit, although quite frankly, the reality is that there is no limit. It's a naturally occurring abiotic substance which comes from the planet and is produced naturally. So somewhere in all of this, we can take the power away from the big oil barons and give it back to the people and start forming a balance of technologies and a balance of environmental sustainability, but still be able to keep some of our traditional ways of doing things. With oil, we need that for vehicles. Oil, I mean, not just for powering them, but for parts, bits and pieces, parts, lubricants. It has a never-ending supply of uses, never-ending amount of uses. So, yep, I'm with you, mate. It's absolutely Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and Jason, you be aware too that the very first executive action of Joe Biden, I'm not even going to call him president, Joe Biden on day one was to shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which would have supplied fuel from Canada to America. America was virtually self-sustaining with all its energy needs. And of course now, in the last week, Joe Biden's complaining that there's not enough oil and oil supply. I mean, seriously?
Seriously, they all need a brain check. So everybody get in behind. Guy's going to be down in Levin, Firebird Cafe. They depart at 3:30. They depart at 3:30 from Glenmore Street in Wellington. There you go. I just closed that. Glenmore Street in Wellington. And heading up to Levin there. So get in behind and support the cause. Guy, thank you for coming today. Let me get out of this window and into your window. Thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful, and I'll keep an eye out for you over the weekend. And let's keep in touch, and we'll get you back online and find out how your speaking progress is going. Okay there?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, Jace, and the relationship we've had has been great, actually, from day one. And everything I'm doing now is, it's an organic thing. It's just heartfelt. It's what I believe needs to happen. I'm not a politician. I'm not interested in being one, but unfortunately, we have 120 plus MPs in our parliament that no longer represent us. They're not prepared to talk to us, and everything just feels like it's getting steamrolled over us. So, if they're not going to allow the media to say it, then we have to stand up and say what we believe is happening out there.
That's right. Stand up for fuel, stand up for rights, stand up for freedom. Here on State of the Nation, you've been with Guy Nunns and Jason Bainbridge. I'm your host of State of the Nation, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for coming, Mr. Guy Nunns. Take care.
God bless.